today's topic is all about back to school and university, and me and Victoria are going to discuss our tips on preparing for the new school year. And I think the first question was, how can I stay organised throughout the term? I don't know if you want to start, V, with your ideas for this question.
Yeah, the first thing that is really important is to plan everything because I know some people who don't write like important dates down and then they forget that they have to like hand in something and that's really not that good. So I would recommend to always write everything down the second you know about it and like maybe even like go to your teacher and ask for important dates because it's always better to be like overly prepared and
Yeah.
organized than to like forget something.
Yeah.
And I would also say that you maybe like decorate your planner because like I have a planner and I honestly could not live without it and I love it so much and I also have like stickers to put in it and it's like honestly so much fun like once you get like the hang of it. And yeah, so I would really recommend to like buy a beautiful planner and maybe also some stickers to decorate it with, and then you basically have everything in one place and can have a look like at yeah like your important dates or like exams and everything.
That sounds so. I was thinking the exact same thing. I was just going to say that, like, it's so important to stay organised because I think that sets you up for the rest of the term, and then you kind of know what's ahead. And like you were saying, if you know when your deadlines are, then it's less anxiety provoking because it's like you've got them out in your
Yeah,
calendar,
definitely.
and you're not like just shocked when it's like week 8 and then like week 9 you've got two essays due, which is typical. We usually at university you get like massive essays at the end of term, and people are still always shocked when they come around, and I'm just like, I've been planning for like quite a while now. And so I would definitely agree with the planner. And I really like, I don't know if you have like a favorite planner brand, but I really like Kate Spade because I think that the way they set them up are really like helpful. Because you usually have like the monthly calendar, and then day by day it's like broken down and you have enough space to sort of plan out things that you need to do. But then I also like using a digital calendar. I don't know if you ever use the calendar on your MacBook or your phone, but I actually probably use it more than the physical planner just because I find it really quick and easy to use. I don't know if you like
Yeah,
yours as
I
well.
think I kind of divide my like dates into like school things and I do only like school stuff with my planner, like where I write
Oh,
everything in. And then on my phone I usually like write in like I don't know when I have to go to the doctors or have another like important date that has nothing to do with
yeah,
school. So I kind of like divide those two things, like my
yeah.
kind of personal life and my school life. So yeah.
I actually do both. I just color code them because I'm so nerdy. So I have pink for any other activity that's not university, and then blue for anything that's university. So that's what my calendar looks like. Because I just got my new timetable for this year, so that's how kind of how I've divided it. And it's not too confusing, but I can understand like it might be better to separate them. So I think it's like up to each individual how they want to do it. But I was also going to say I really like to
Yeah.
organize through folders, which is where I'd put like lecture notes and printouts in like large ring bound folders. I know everyone has like a different preference for how they like to take notes. I have a mixture. I mean, it moves more on to the next question. I don't know
Yeah.
if you want to move on to the next question,
Yeah,
but
so I have to say that I do the exact same. I also have folders for each subject because I'm in college and we have like, I don't know, like 15 different subjects. And I have like a folder for like every subject. And it's like, I
yeah,
honestly don't know how people can live without them
no,
because I just couldn't handle like all of my notes like in one like folder. Or some people even they don't have folders at all. Some people just throw their notes like into their bag or just
that's
leave them in
crazy.
like yeah, isn't it? Because like it's so I don't know, it would give me anxiety not knowing where everything is.
Yeah. And they get all
And
crumpled,
yeah,
and then
so
that just makes me sad.
yeah. Ugh. I honestly don't even want to think about that. And there was a time where I did that as well. I think I was like in eighth grade or something.
Yeah.
And yeah, it wasn't great.
No, I completely agree. I think folders are really good because you can subdivide them. I know that sounds really nerdy, but like when I'm at uni and say I did a module on a certain type of literature, like, I don't know, Victorian, each week we do a different text. So what I would do is I'd get one folder, usually in a pastel colour, and I would get these like subdividers in different colours. And so, like, say one week it might be Oliver Twist, and then the next it might be like the Brontes, and then I'd like subdivide them. So like each had a section. I know that sounds really over the top, but it means that when you're coming back to like look at your notes, if you want to do an essay or something, you can literally just go to that like division, and it's not like everything's blending into one. And then you're like, oh my gosh, what week
Yeah.
was that? And I like to put everything in order. But I have to admit, I also do really love using, I don't know if you ever use it, but my uni's really big on it since the pandemic, but Google Docs. And we would like, that's where we'd take a lot of class notes and do a lot of work with classmates was over Google Docs because you can share them with people and then they can add their notes. And so what I would do is I would like organize my Google Docs, but at the moment I need to do another organization because there's just so many documents because that's where I take most of my notes. Because I was doing
Yeah.
online learning, so it was just easier. But whenever I did a lecture or a class, I would handwrite everything. But when I was doing research, I would type everything. So I kind of use different mediums because I know some people like to just do one, like paper or digital. But I actually don't think there's anything wrong with doing both. I don't know which one you prefer, like for taking notes and revision and stuff.
Yeah, so I like when I think about it, think I only write things down on paper,
Yeah.
and I don't know why, but it just has something like relaxing. I don't
Yeah.
I honestly like really enjoy like writing things down on paper, and yeah, so I don't think I do that much online. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, now that I'm like at like a media school, we obviously have to do some things like on our laptops, but it's not like that I take notes on it. And yeah, but what I also wanted to say is that I think it's really important to like write the date on all of your notes because like if you want to go back to like a like specific week, you don't have to like look all over like your folder. You like know where you have to look because it's all like sorted and the
Yeah.
date is on it. So that's really easy, I think. And also, if you like, I don't know, take like things out of your folder and then want to put them back, you don't know which like order you have to put it back in
That's
if you
so
don't have the date
true.
on it. So yeah,
Definitely.
because I really like to like take the papers out of my folder to study because I just like having everything like next to each other and not like
Yeah.
having to like fold over like every page. And yeah, so I really like to do that. And yeah, I think it's really helpful to.
Yeah, like I think everyone's got their own sort of methods and like what works best for them. So this is just like our key advice for how we have gotten
Yeah.
through like studying and other things. And like I said, for me, like note taking, I really love to use beautiful notebooks. And so when I'm in a class, I will always handwrite. And when I'm in a lecture, I'll always handwrite. I'll never type my notes because I don't think I process the information as best. Like some people, they're in a lecture and they're tapping away on their laptop, but I just don't think that you can process information that quickly and like understand it. I feel like when you're writing, you're consciously thinking about what you're writing. You're not just mindlessly
Yeah.
writing. Um,
Yeah.
Whereas when I'm preparing for a class, just because of the sheer volume of stuff I have to read, it would, if I handwrote every single note, I think it would literally take me like double the time to do anything. So it's kind of like a
Yeah, I
means
get
to an
that.
end because basically I probably have to read 2 to 3 pieces of literature, like novels or plays a week, on top of criticism for each thing. So I couldn't handwrite everything that I was thinking on. It would just take way too long. And some people don't take any notes at all because it does take longer to do that. But I I have this thing where I really like to, when I'm reading a book or something like a play or a novel, I type quotations from the book that I like, and then when I'm doing an essay, I go back to them, and then that's what I use for like evidence or what I'm arguing. And I think that can be really helpful for any literature or art students out there that have to read a lot of books, because you can copy and paste the quotes in and you're taking in the information, and those quotes might be important to what you want to write. And that's something that I've really found helpful like throughout my time studying. And also sticky notes. If you don't use sticky notes, you need to, especially if you're a literature student, because I don't know if you like writing in books. Do you like actually physically annotating them? Because I know some people do.
Um,
It's controversial.
since I don't think I've ever done it.
Yeah.
I don't know why I just can't bring myself to it.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I would like to do it because I think it's like amazing to like see your thoughts like when you
Yeah.
read the book again, like what you thought of it before, like maybe your thoughts about it has like changed or something. And
Yeah.
I would really like to do it, but I just can't bring myself to it. I don't know why, but
No.
yeah. And since I don't really have to read like a lot of books for like my college,
Yeah.
I don't really have to do that like in order like to study or something.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, like honestly, when I was a lot younger, I was one of those people that really, went in that highlighter, pen, annotating. And then I didn't really like the way it looked, and also I couldn't sell them on if I wanted to sell them later when I'd finished
Yeah.
studying them. So I started using sticky notes, and it was so good because I could write everything that I was thinking, but I didn't overwrite because they're tiny, they're only like really small. So it meant that I could only put on certain information, and it meant that I could take them out and put them on my wall if I needed to revise, if I was learning something for an exam. And then it also meant that if I wanted to sell it, I could do it, just take out the sticky notes. So basically, if you like annotating books or if you study literature, I recommend sticky notes because I mainly use them for plays and poems. I don't usually use them for novels because I don't know why, but I just feel it's too much in novels and I just have to like type the quotes out. And they're usually a lot bigger. But yeah, so those are like my top note taking tips. And then I think the next question was, what is your planning system like? So if you want to start with yours.
So, um, as I already said, I plan everything like in my planner.
Yeah.
And um, I always write the date down in like the monthly calendar and also um, in like the daily one, like so where each day is like a page or something.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I have like every date written down 2 times, and then I also have another like schedule that I make myself like just on a piece of paper where I put like all of the my exam dates like under each other.
Yeah.
So I have like an overview of everything I have to do. So yeah, I think that's basically what I do to not forget anything. And yeah.
I
And
was gonna say mine is quite similar. I just each week I keep an ongoing to-do list of the assignments I'm working towards and the readings I need to complete for the next week. And I usually like to spread my reading over the whole week so that I can do a little bit and often so it's not overwhelming by the weekend, because when you do English, especially at university, it is, I have to admit, like just anyone listening who maybe might be starting English at uni or wants to do it, it's an amazing subject, but you go through books so quickly, and if you don't keep up with the reading, it's really easy to fall behind. And I remember in my first year, I was just so overwhelmed. I was like, how am I going to read like 2 plays and a novel in a week? And then like another, like, I don't know, epic poem, and then another play, and then another novel each week for different modules on different time periods. And I was like, oh my gosh, how do people do this? And it's like the more that you read, the quicker you get, and then you learn how to skim read certain things that aren't as important, and then it's almost like a muscle. The more that you practice, the better you get. And so I read a lot quicker now, and it's become easier, but you still have to keep on top of it because so many people in my classes have fallen behind and then they just don't read the books anymore. So the next question is, do you have any advice for staying on top of your workload? So what are your top tips?
So I would definitely say what you basically said in the last question, but like divide your time and like what you have to do.
Mm,
And yeah, because I think that's a really important thing because you can't do like everything you want to do in one day. Like it's just
yeah.
not possible. So you really have to see like or maybe like make a list. Like I love to do lists, and I always like write everything down that I have to do and then divide it onto like different days. So
Yeah.
let's just say I have to do something in animation and also like in like I don't know, I can't think of any subject right now, or like in English or communication, and I can't do that on one day. So I will, I don't know, do English on Monday, communication on Tuesday, and then animation on Wednesday, so that everything is like divided, and I don't have like because at the end of the week you don't want to do everything on Sunday that you have to do for the next
Yeah.
week, and so because if you don't do the stuff like now it just like will pile up and then you have to do everything at once, and yeah, that's really not helpful and not healthy, I think, because you would have to stay up really late to do all that, and yeah.
Yeah. No, that just gives me like so much stress thinking about that. Because I was just gonna say,
Yeah.
like, as a literature student, I spend more time reading than attending classes. So I have to make time for reading. Otherwise, it's like, you know, what's the point? Like, I can't just like go to
Yeah.
class and then like not do any of the other stuff. And so I only get 8 hours of contact time, like classes a week, which is not a lot compared to like other subjects maybe get 20 hours a week. So that means it's so important that when I read, I also look at like other information like historical context, critical literary theory. There's always something more, and that's kind of it's difficult when you go to uni because no matter what subject you're studying, it doesn't really matter. Um, there's always something more that you could read. You have to have a cut-off point. It's not like when you're in school and you can like do your math homework and that's it. There's always something extra you could read, but you have to be disciplined and say to yourself, we've had enough now. Like my lecturers have told me before, like you need to take a break or you need to like stop researching because I am not kidding. Like any topic that you could think of, you could probably spend hours, days,
Yeah.
weeks like researching it. And even though it can be fun, sometimes you get to a point, you know when you go on YouTube and you might watch one video and then you end up going on another one, another one, another one, and it's got nothing to do with the original video that you watched. That's a bit like going on a research rabbit hole. And even though it can be enjoyable, if you're feeling burned out by the end of it, you need to take a break. And don't get me wrong, it's happened to me many times and it's not really helped. And to be honest, a lot of the research that I didn't end up actually using in the assignment. And then you feel a bit like, why was I spending all this time researching
Yeah.
this? And then you like get to the end of the week and you're like, okay, I'm only going to use that critic and no one else. And so it's like, I don't know if anyone else feels like this, but you can feel a bit guilty if you're not doing work all the time or you're not doing research or whatever. But you have to learn to like take care of yourself and know that it's enough and like limit yourself to certain amounts of time to do it. And that's what I need to do this year. I need to pace myself just like an athlete would
Yeah.
do or a dancer. They wouldn't go full out on the day of the show. They would pace themselves and then wait to the performance. They wouldn't go super hard on that day because they've practiced, they've rehearsed, they
Yeah.
know it. And I think you can relate to this as well.
Yeah, definitely. And um a lot of teachers also like giving me that advice, or like the whole class the advice
Yeah.
to just like if you have an important exam the day before, make sure that you have a relaxing evening, because if you stress yourself out it won't help you. And I think like in like today, like in this time we're living in, um, it's really romanticized to burn yourself out from
Yeah.
studying, because I've seen it like a lot on like Twitter or I yeah, mainly Twitter, I think, um,
Yeah.
where like people just like romanticize like always studying and like making yourself like feel worse, and like
Mm,
your mental health is so important, because at the end of the day, like if your mental health isn't okay, you won't make it through like the like school or uni or anything. So
yeah.
you have to take care of yourself, because if you're not okay, like it won't help you that you know everything for that one class. So,
Definitely.
yeah.
I mean, I've been in that exact position. I mean, I have to
Yeah.
admit, most of my school years and university years, I've been burnt out. Like, I don't think there's been a year where I
Yeah.
haven't. And that didn't mean that I didn't do well, but it meant that I didn't have any peace of mind. And it meant that, like, I enjoyed it, but then it's like I had nothing else. And I really think anyone that's starting uni or college or anything, you need to make time to do other things. That's why I love doing ballet, because that kind of brings me out of the study mode and it helps me a
Yeah.
lot. And I think you can relate with that as well. But there's other things you can
Yeah,
do as
definitely.
well. It doesn't have to be dance, it could be anything. Um, but I think you need to like balance the workload, try and stay on top of things, but then also let things slip if they're not necessary. Because even some of my tutors last year said to me, some weeks there might be a text that you're not that interested in. Don't do the extra reading on it. And I was like, I thought we had to. And they were like, no, because it's up to you what you want to look at. If you're
Yeah.
not going to write an essay on it, just don't bother. So,
And I also think that like kind of goes with what we said before with the planning, because if you like plan ahead and maybe start a bit early with something, if you're not feeling
yeah,
great on like a specific day, you can always say, okay, I've got time to do it later. So if you leave
yeah.
everything until the last minute, you won't, yeah, like you can't do that because it will be too late, and you
Mm,
like you can't take like a time out. So if
so
you
true.
start a bit earlier and like divide your work in like different weeks and days and everything, you can always say, okay, I've got another week to do it, so I can relax today and do it next week. So I think that's like really important.
Yeah, that is so true. I think like everyone has to find their own little routine, but there's
Yeah.
definitely some certain things that everyone should try and stick to, as in having a beginning and an end, not like in the day, sort of saying this is when I start, this is when I finish. I'm one of those people that have like gone past that many a time, but it just doesn't help. And truthfully, you don't end up using everything that you've been reading most of the time. It's just that you feel like you
Yeah.
need to carry on because you feel sort of guilty for stopping. But that is so normal and human. And yeah, I think that's like our main tips for that sort of section. Um,
Yeah.
I think our next one, which is a bit more fun, is do you have any favourite shops for stationery or school supplies? So, what are your favourites?
So I have to say I don't really have any specific shops, but I love just looking around at, for example, TK Maxx, because I think
Yeah.
that you can really find amazing like notebooks or planners there. Because I got my planner from TK Maxx and I love it so much, and I think it's like the fourth year in a row that I got my planner from TK Maxx, because
Oh.
they always have like the same like type of planner that I really love, and I just can't seem to find the same type like online or anywhere. And yeah, I mean, you have to be like kind of lucky to find one that's also like in perfect condition, because I hate it when like notebooks or planners have like scratches or any other marks on them. So I always
Yeah.
have to like really look carefully if I like find one that like is in perfect condition, as I already said.
Oh
um,
no, there's so many like lovely stationery shops like that I could mention. There's two that I will recommend though. The first is the Paper Parlor, and it's just like an online stationery shop, but they've got like really lovely um different planners and pencil cases and from like brands like Kate Spade. And I really recommend them. But But I also like, and I've mentioned this to you before, it's called Cafe Baudelaire and it's on Redbubble. I think it's also on Etsy. And the lady behind it's called Wendy, and she creates these beautiful sort of Rococo French 18th century designed planners, notebooks, anything, stickers, like anything you can think of. And I just think they're so beautiful. And I had to get some last year when I went back to uni, and then I got some this year because all my subjects I'm doing are 18th century related. So I was like, I need to get like notebooks that sort of like match that sort of thing. So I really recommend them if you like sort of Parisian designs and Marie Antoinette and things like that. You will love her shop. So I'm going to link it below, and they're not too expensive either. So yeah, those are like my top recommendations for stationery online. But in person, you can just usually find, like you said, in TK Maxx or somewhere, there's always something cute, but you just need to make sure that they're not damaged. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah. And then the next section is how do you like to annotate or analyze works of literature? I don't know if that's mainly towards what I do, but I guess you could apply it to anything that you're looking at, like anything you're reading, like how you like to take notes or annotate.
Yeah.
Um, but for me, I really like I said before, sticky notes. But then I'd also say that depending on what text you're looking at, it can be interesting to pick out different things. So on the sticky notes, you can look at specific things like themes, historical context, theory, or language analysis, and you can like do them in different colours. So that's something that I really like to do, especially with plays, especially and also if it's Shakespeare, because that can be quite challenging. It's quite nice to break it down with sticky notes and colours. Um, but then another thing I love to do, and I mainly do this for novels, is I make a Word document where I write all the key quotes. Instead of handwriting them, I like to type them. And so, say if I was reading Mansfield Park, like by Jane Austen, I would type any quotes that I find interesting. Um, and you can also sometimes get PDFs online of the book, and that might make it easier for getting quotes down. But I just find that when I do that, the plot stays in my head more. I remember certain things that are going on because I've typed down the quote. And also, it's great if I'm like, oh, what's that quote? And then, like, I remember part of it, and then I can just type it in on my laptop, and then it comes up, and it's just so much easier. And then something you could also do, but depends if you've got more time, and this is probably better if you're doing GCSE English or something, is doing mind maps of the book, and you can write the characters, key plot points, quotes, things like that. And I just love mind maps because they really do keep all the information in your head. And they were like my favourite thing to revise from when I was doing any exams. And I still use them now. I used them when I did my Anglo-Saxon exam last year, which was really hard. Um, I used lots of cue cards and mind maps for that. It was probably one of the most difficult exams I've ever done. Um, so yeah, it was interesting, but it was really hard. But those are like my top recommendations. I don't know what yours are. If you're like looking at a text or
So
something.
yeah, we do have like some like theoretical stuff that we have to do. For example, like history of like different fonts, for example.
Yeah,
And so I really like to like kind of marker like the important things with like a highlighter, or like
yeah,
highlight the important things with a highlighter. That's what I wanted to say. Yeah, because I think if you look at the text, you just like immediately see the important things. Like also if you're like studying for like an exam, which we will come to in the next point. Um, yeah, but I also really like to maybe if we like read a text or something in class and the teacher says something that's not written in the text, I like to like just write it down like at the side so I can like
yeah.
remember like the thing that the teacher said because maybe it's important for an exam or something. Yeah, so that's what I mainly like to do. Yeah.
And then the next section was how do you prepare for assignments or essays? I'm always curious to see how you prepare. So what are your like top tips for that sort of thing?
So what I like to do is to use like different methods of like kind of studying. So one thing I will do is just like reread everything that I've written down in class and like the worksheets that we got and everything. But then I also like to write the important things down again because I think that if you write something down, it will stay in your head for longer. And then what I also like to do is watch videos online of the topic, so you can also hear it. So like it's like you write it, you read it, and you hear it. So it's like different methods of learning. And I think that's like really helpful to me. I mean, everyone has their preferences, but I just really like a mixture of everything. So that's basically what I do. So yeah, I think that's it, yeah.
I have so many different like things I do, but I think because I'm constantly writing essays, I have to do a lot of research and planning. So it's actually quite important, and I think no matter what subject you're doing or studying, there's always quite a lot of research work that needs to go into whether it's a science or arts. I think a lot of research has to go into what you're doing. So when I work on an essay, my first tip is to plan and jot down ideas as early as possible. And sometimes, like small, seemingly insignificant things end up being like really interesting topics, and you might dismiss them, and then you come like round to essay time, and you're like, oh, I remember that idea, and then it can be so good to like write these things down because there is like when it comes to essays people that do them really last minute and they actually do okay or they do really badly or there's people that plan ahead and some people do well and some people don't, but usually if you plan ahead and you have enough time you usually do better. Some people do well last minute, but I think those are like rare people. Not
Yeah,
everyone can pull
definitely.
that off. Like I never have been that person. I've never been the person to like go from the library from because at York where I go to uni, you can go to the library all through the night. I'm not even kidding. Like it's a 24-hour library and people
Oh
do
my
that
God.
for assignments. I've never been one of those people. I'm not judging people that do. I'm just saying I wouldn't be able to function and write an essay if I'd not had sleep and time to like plan and process. And so when I've like sort of got the idea, like the vague idea, I reread the text that I'm looking at, and I usually like to do novels, just because they're my favorite, or sometimes poetry, sometimes plays, but mainly novels. And so once you have like a vague idea of like what you want to look at, you can like zoom in on the text when you reread it and like look for the thing that you're looking for, if that makes any sense. Like if
Yeah.
there's like a particular theme that you really want to look at, or so it could be something really small. Like you could look at mirrors, or I don't know, just something really random, and like really focus on that idea and reread the text and pick out all the quotes that go with that. And if you've got your quote document like me, that might be a bit easier because you could type in the word. Like it could be like, I don't know, friendship, and you could literally type in friendship, and then you might find like loads of passages that relate to friendship. Or I don't know if any of this makes any sense, but I'm hoping it might help someone that might struggle with essays. Um, and so usually once I've done that, I then look into secondary reading, which is so important when you're doing your degree because you can't just get by using the primary text. You've got to use historical context and literary theory and academic articles. And so when you don't have that in your essay, it weakens your argument. I almost see it as like you're arguing your case in court and you've got to back it up with people. And then you've also got to challenge other people's thoughts on whatever it is. Um, and I guess if someone's reading through your essay and you don't have any of that, they're going to be like, well, what's the point? Like, why is this important? Why are you saying this? And that sort of thing. So it can be really good to challenge people. But it also can be good to get people that actually agree with what you're saying. Like, you don't have to just challenge everyone. You can actually, have people that have, maybe you're looking at something from a feminist perspective, and maybe it's Jane Eyre, and then, which is quite a standard reading of Jane Eyre. Maybe don't do something too stereotypical, but if you're looking at it in a feminist way, you might get someone to back you up saying that they agree with what you're saying, and then you also might say, well, I challenge this person, and that's like something that I've developed over time, because I don't know about you, but did you ever feel like when you're writing something, you almost doubt what you're saying, or you don't have confidence in it because you
Yeah,
almost like, I don't know,
yeah.
you don't believe in yourself, and then it kind of affects your writing. And my lecturers always tell me, like, you need to have more belief in your ideas, and don't be scared to like say what you think. And I really encourage anyone out there, like, if they're struggling with finding their voice in writing, the best thing to do is just go for it and see what happens. Because if you don't do that, it can kind of come across in the essay that you don't believe in what you're writing about, and that might affect the reader. And the best thing you need to do is try and convince them that what you're saying is important. And that's like my main piece of advice, because I'm actually struggling with that myself, and I don't find it all easy, and it can be challenging to sort of put yourself out there, because you might feel like people might not agree with what you're saying, and and that can be like quite scary. So I definitely recommend that. Um, and also something else that I really like to do, and this is gonna sound so like extra, but I really like to create a Word document for my essay plan, and then I get like loads of images that sort of relate to it, and it makes me, because I don't know if you are a visual learner, but I am, and I like to have loads of images that correspond with the essay. And then when I'm looking through it, I just feel so inspired. Like last year I did one, and it was like an
Yeah.
18th century one, and I was looking at like sensibility, and it reminded me of, I wasn't looking at Jane Austen specifically, but it was that sort of era, and I got loads of images that related to that, and I put it into my essay plan. And it doesn't get marked or anything. It was just for me because it made it fun. And I know it's difficult because not every part of your schoolwork will be fun, but the moments where you can make it more enjoyable, do it, because you'll feel more inspired, you'll probably achieve better, and you won't feel so stressed, and it might be more of a fun process. You might not believe me, but you can make it more fun. So, yeah, I don't know if any of that's helpful. But yeah.
So I think the last thing we want to talk about is our study inspirations, and I don't know if you want to start with that one.
Oh gosh, okay. There's quite a few. But my number one will always be Elle Woods. I just
Yes, definitely.
admire her ability to not let the thoughts of others get to her, and to carry on pursuing her dreams despite setbacks and despite people not believing in her, because I can really relate to that. Because when I was in school,
Yeah.
um, I wasn't naturally academic. I'm not really from an academic family background. The only way that I improved was really, really hard work. And a lot of people didn't think I'd be able to achieve certain things and get to university to study English and things like that. And when I got to sixth form, which is when you're about, if you're not from the UK, it's about when you're about 17 to 18, you do A levels, and that determines whether you go to university or not. And a lot of people didn't think that I would do very well, and then obviously I proved them wrong. And it felt really good to do that, and she always reminds me of that, just proving everyone wrong and that you can do these things. So I think she's like my number one inspiration. She always will be. Then I also, of course, love Rory Gilmore because she loves literature, and I probably work as much as her, if not sometimes maybe even more. Um, and obviously Hermione Granger. I mean, can't miss out her because she's just iconic. Her putting her hand up. I mean, I said this to you last week. That felt like me last year on Zoom. Like when it just goes silent. I don't know if anyone else has had this where it goes silent in the class and it just feels awkward and you feel like you have to say something because no one's saying anything. And yeah, I felt like Hermione. So those are like my three. What about you?
I actually have the exact same ones.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Um, but yeah, I really adore just Elle and her like work ethic and that she like really doesn't care what anyone thinks of her and like she's
Yeah.
herself and I just really love that because I haven't always been like that. Like I try to be like that, but it hasn't always worked out that well.
Yeah.
And I just think that she's like a great inspiration and yeah, I just really, really love her. And like also of course Rory Gilmore because like she's just such an inspiration because she just loves what she's doing and like she doesn't do it like to prove anything to anyone, I think, just but like to prove for herself that she can do it. And
Yeah.
I really love that and also Hermione of course and I have to say that I sometimes feel like her in class because um like a few years ago, I've like never raised my hand in class, like never, and I would never say anything, and that has like changed quite a bit because I've become like, especially now that I'm at like a new school or like at college, um, I've become more confident in what I say because the like
Yeah.
subjects are like more like suitable for me, I guess. And
Yeah.
every subject is something that I'm interested in and that I really think that I know something about. So I literally always raise my hand and like the teachers like obviously can't always like take me because like there are other people in class, but yeah, I still always raise my hand if I know something or think I know something.
Yeah.
And yeah, and if you get something right, it's like a really, really great like motivation because like if the teacher says that like you're right or like you have a good point, like it really motivates you to raise your hand more often and really like participate in class. And yeah, I think those are also my main study inspirations.
Yeah, like I completely agree, and I loved how you got the same ones. I think the last section is really quick was how to make your workspace girly and pretty. I was wondering what your favorite things are, like to make it feel like that, because I know we both love to do that, so I'm just
Yeah,
curious.
so I think in general I have like a few different like workspaces, which is really weird. But I of course have my desk where I work, but I also love to work on the floor, and it's really weird.
That's
But
very
I
Elwoods.
think that
Do you know which scene I mean?
yeah,
Where she sat with the
yeah.
books,
Now that I think
and
of
she's
it,
like, "I'm studying for the
yeah,
LSATs," and she's like, "Is that a
yeah.
disease?"
Funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, because I think that I have just like more room on the floor and I can like lay everything out like next to each other and don't have to worry about like the space, which reminds me of you and like your vanity table.
Yeah, that's
um
true.
yeah. Um yeah, I just really like doing it on the floor. And
Yeah.
but it can be really bad for like your knees or your back because if you're like in the same position for a really long time, it's like not good for your like your joints and everything.
Yeah.
But what I also really like to do is like if I just have to read something, I like to do it on my bed. And I know that not everyone likes that because some people like to kind of divide their like different spaces in like work and or like school and free time, but I honestly don't mind because I really love what I do, so I don't really have to do that, which is really
Yeah.
fortunate. um, yeah, so I do different things in different workplaces. So when I have to write something, I usually go to my desk because I just like it's just the easiest. And if I just like have to organize something or like look at different papers, I usually do that on the floor. And if I have to read something, I usually do that on my bed. So yeah. And on my desk, I usually just have like my pencil case and I like to have everything in like kind of the same color scheme. So like light pink and white and I don't know, rose gold. And I think if like your like materials that you're working with look pretty, it will like naturally make you like more motivated and
Yeah.
like you want to study because like everything you have like for studying, like your pencil case and your folders and everything look really pretty together. So yeah, I think that's what I do.
No, like I completely agree. Unfortunately, I don't have a desk because basically I've said this before, but my room's not big enough, so my dressing table takes up the room where a desk would be. Because I love my dressing table, I don't want to get it ruined. I try and not work on
Yeah.
there, and I don't get the best internet connection in my room either, which is not great. So I have to study in the lounge, and I have like a coffee table. I want to get like a new one because the leg isn't too great at the moment. It's sort of like because I think because I always have so many books on it, it's kind of a bit wobbly. So I'm hoping to get like a French shabby chic coffee table. So it's not like a desk, but it's like a pretty coffee table. So I'm gonna replace this one so it looks a bit more nice and be more enjoyable.
Yeah.
But usually on the coffee table I when it's spring, I love to put flowers out, and I usually have like peonies or something like that because I really like to have something fresh like in front of me. Um, Scented candle if it's like autumn winter time. Notebooks and
Yeah,
folders.
definitely.
Obviously my MacBook, rose gold. Like you said, it's got to match. Books,
Yeah.
definitely. That's probably why the table has gone a bit dodgy because I always have too many on there. I can't take the weight of all the books. Um, and then something else that I quite like to have is an art print, like of something that like inspires me. I don't know if you like to have like images above you when you're studying that kind of inspire you, but I think that can be quite nice and it can be quite motivating.
Yeah, I
Um,
usually have like mood boards or like Pinterest
yeah,
boards
that can be
where that
good.
I look at.
I
Yeah.
definitely think people should do that because it can also remind you of what you're studying for, but it also can remind you of what you want to
Yeah.
do when you've got the grade or when you've, you know, graduated or whatever it is. And I think that can be like a really nice thing to do. And also it can be good to have like a snack or some sort of tea with you, some sort of beverage that you like, and because you need
Yeah,
fuel when
definitely.
you're studying. It's really important. I didn't really realize it a few years ago, but it's so, so important to be fueled properly. You won't retain the information.
Yeah,
So yeah.
that's so true.
And I don't know if you have like a favorite snack that you like to have when you're studying or drink or
Mm, I usually like to drink some kind of coffee, but like
yeah.
not black coffee or anything like that.
No.
So like I don't know, a vanilla a vanilla latte or
Yeah.
like at the moment, for example, a pumpkin spice latte. I'm actually going
Yeah.
to study at a coffee shop today, and
Yay.
I'm definitely going to get a pumpkin spice latte.
Oh,
Um, yeah, and I'm really excited for that. So if you know how to study, then it can be fun and you can get excited for it. So
definitely.
yeah,
I do that.
yeah,
I
but
like say I'm gonna go to the library
yeah,
and then after I'm like I'm gonna get the pumpkin spice latte after as like a reward for
yeah,
like the work I've done and I do like
yeah,
coffee shops. I actually loads of people are really productive in there. I actually can't be because it's too loud. I have to go to the library where there's like no one there and it's like quiet, and then I go and get my
yeah,
Starbucks. But some people really like that
yeah.
environment, so everyone's
Yeah, I have to say that the coffee shop that I always go to isn't that full,
that's
and
good.
most of the people that are in there are also like on their laptops, so it's kind of like everyone is just doing their own thing.
That's
And
good.
I usually also have like headphones on most of the time, and I don't play music in them, but they just like block out the noise a bit more. I don't know if
Yeah.
like anyone else does that, but I really like to do that. Also, when I like read in public spaces, I also put my headphones on but don't play any music on them. But I just can concentrate better if like the sound is like muffled. Is that how you say it?
That makes sense. Because I really
Yeah,
want to work in one, but like every time I do, I get so distracted with the noise, and I'm just like not thinking about what I'm reading. But it's good that
yeah.
you
But I
have
get
like
that. Yeah,
a coffee shop that's quiet because mine that are local to me are big chains, so there's always loads of people in there, like Cafe Nero and Starbucks, and it's never like quiet enough. So, because people are catching up and like they're meeting friends, and that's
Yeah.
like normal. So, I have this tiny, tiny library local to me that I went when I was like really young. So I go there. If I wasn't going to the university library, I just go there, and there's like hardly anyone in there. It's like tiny. So there's like only like two desks. So I usually just sit at one, and then after I'd go and get pumpkin spice latte. Um, but I think that's everything. I had so much fun recording this one. Um,
Yeah, I have as well.
it's made me feel like excited about uni and everything like that. And I know some people
Yeah,
can
definitely.
dread it, but please don't dread it. You can have fun, and it's all about
Yeah.
how you make it. You can make it enjoyable. It's just about
Yeah.
mindset and being positive and everything like that. So we really hope you've enjoyed and stay tuned for our next one. Bye!
Bye.